I'm Dale Smith for Looney Politics, and one of the troubling signs about how deeply unserious our parliament has become is on the Public Accounts Committee. Now, the Public Accounts Committee is actually one of the most interesting and undersung committees amongst all the various standing committees. And it's one of the opposition-led committees, and it is tended to be one of the most nonpartisan of them all because their job is to look at the reports of the Auditor General and public accounts. And by public accounts, I mean the document that's produced at the end of the fiscal cycle for Parliament. So that means the budget, which is the political document, the estimates, which are the actual spending plans, and then the public accounts come at the end of that cycle to show what actually did get spent. And this committee normally does this very serious and sober work of making sure that things got spent where they were supposed to, and also that, Auditor General's reports are being followed up on, particularly by the public service. But in the last few months, this committee is being abused increasingly, particularly from the Conservatives. We saw them trying to use this committee to try and go after the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation, even though that has nothing to do with the remit of this committee. In fact, they wound up spending 5 meetings holding hearings with officials only for it to produce a 2-line report that says the committee recommends that the CRA audit the foundation, none of which has anything to do with the Auditor General or the public accounts because they don't get government funds. They're not a crown corporation. They received a grant a number of years ago, which has a legislative condition that they need to report to Parliament on the fact that it's still in existence and that, it's being invested wisely. But that has nothing to do with the public accounts or the Auditor General. She has no mandate over looking at that foundation or anything. So why this particular committee got abused in order to do this is something of a question. And then we saw again in this past week an attempt by Conservatives to use this committee once again to try and bring CBC executives to face questions about why they have the editorial choice around the use of terrorism or describing Hamas as terrorists or not, which is the case. Never mind that that's a standard practice among other media outlets, particularly the BBC and the Associated Press now worldwide. But this has nothing to do, once again, with the Auditor General and her reports or the public accounts. Yes, the CBC receives a stipend from the government, but it also operates independently and at arm's length. And why the Public Accounts Committee would be used for this particular vendetta, which goes against the independence of the media, is baffling, and it's a troubling sign about where things are headed. Now, the Conservatives who put forward these motions are not regular members of this committee, but they get subbed in order to try and get the committee to produce these reports. And it's troubling to me that, at least in the case of the Trudeau Foundation report, that you had enough members of other opposition parties who decided, yes, okay, let's pursue this, even though it is outside the mandate of this committee. And I worry that if this particular committee is being abused in this manner, what this means for the rest of committees and what else is happening in Parliament. This is a troubling sign. This is abusing the mandate and the purpose of why these committees exist. And it's a sign that if our MPs can't be trusted to do the work that they're supposed to on these committees, and rather than going on vendettas or fishing expeditions to satisfy conspiracy theories, that's a problem, and we really should be worried about. For Looney Politics, I'm Dale Smith.